So I already performed swarm control a few days ago on this hive. At the time, it was a 10 frame single. I did an inspection and I saw that they were making swarm cells, so I had to intervene. I found the queen, I pulled her and isolated her. I found a really nice queen cell that I was going to isolate and leave behind, and then I destroyed all the others. But there's still a good chance that these will swarm anyway. What some beekeepers may not know is that when you pull the queen from a hive in a swarm mode, you're only preventing the primary swarm. Now remember, you're leaving behind eggs and young larvae, so they can make emergency cells, and they will. For every emergency cell, there is a potential for a cast swarm, and that's how folks come out to their hive and there's like hardly any bees, and they're like, "Where, my bees just all swarmed out." And they did everything they were supposed to do, but they missed that one step that everybody doesn't really talk about so much, or not that I hear them talk about so much. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to open up this hive. I'm going to isolate my swarm cell that I selected to make sure I don't damage that. And then I'm going to cull or destroy all the additional emergency cells they may have made. Whenever I select a swarm cell, it's typically done in a double deep setup. What I would do is I leave that swarm cell behind. You select one or two really nice swarm cells, and I put it in the bottom box. And I usually put it on frame 5 or 6. And the reason I do that is because when there's another box on top, and if you have that swarm cell and they decide to draw it out further, and you take that top box off, when you come to do this step, you're going to destroy your swarm cell. And then you're only left with emergency cells. So your first priority is to find that swarm cell to protect it. Now, I will admit I'm coming out a little late to this hive. This should be done on like day 5 or 7 after the split. And of course, again, time got away from me. And I think today is like day 9. And I don't remember if that cell was capped. If that cell was capped, then there's a good chance there's a virgin running around in here. And I'm thinking there is. So yep. Wow. You don't see that every day. I don't know if this is going to translate on camera. There's a virgin queen right there. So, well, this turned out to be an interesting inspection, and I don't see any emergency cells. Normally I would shake the frames off, but I always want to find that queen cell before I do that, and I definitely don't want to do that now. In fact, I really just want to get out of this hive. The only thing I'm not going to be able to show you is what the emergency cells look like, because there are none. She probably destroyed them all. That's what people count on when they pull their nuke and remove their queen. They count on the queen, the virgin, the first virgin out, to go and destroy all the other emergency cells and swarm cells. And sometimes it happens, but sometimes she can't get to all of them. So now what I need to do is go through this hive and find any additional swarm cells. I really just kind of want to get in and out because there's a virgin running around in there and I don't want to disrupt this too much. So this is, I screwed up. I sat on it, time got away from me, and I came out here too late. That's why you want to do this 5 to 7 days after you make that split. You don't want virgin queens running around when you do this. Okay. So I'm putting the frames back after I found my virgin. So I do have something to show you after all. We have a swarm cell right there. So we're going to take that out. Now you can let this hive finish the requeen process. Let's just do a little recap since I kind of had like a little surprise there. Threw me off my game a little bit. Let's pretend for now that, because this would be your typical situation where you have a double, deep, and a medium on top. So you go inspect your hive, you see swarm cells. Oh no, my hive's gonna swarm. But luckily, the queen is still there. You can absolutely stop that hive from swarming. You go in, you find your queen, you isolate her, you find one or two really nice, swarm cells, usually the ones that are furthest along, and I like to put them in the bottom box in the center, so that when you go back into the hive, 5 to 7 days later, not 9 days later like I just did, you go back in and you know where those cells are, and you don't have to worry about them being here. And and if they happen to draw some burr comb and it touches it, and then you pull this box off, you're going to destroy your really nice swarm cells that you made. So I protect them in the bottom box. And then you're going to leave behind open larva eggs. Of course, since there's open larva in eggs, they have an opportunity to make emergency cells, and they're going to. So you go in 5 to 7 days later, destroy any additional emergency cells they may have made. That's it. And then that will stop your hive from swarming out and throwing cast swarms everywhere on you.